Mic and
Yes.
microphone.
Yeah. Both of you, 12A, 12B and 11A, you may switch off your mics and videos as well.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you. 16B,
16B, you're visible.
Yes, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience.
no issues. The only thing, could you just adjust your camera a bit because we can see only till your forehead.
Uh,
So,
is it fine now?
No.
better.
Like
Better.
Better?
better, right? I'm
The
using.
one who's recording this, I guess Muskan, kindly fit the screen to stream while you're recording it. Okay. Simran, shall I go ahead with the timings?
Just one
Yes.
second, please.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, is it fine now?
Yeah, better.
Shall I begin?
Judges, are we good to go?
Yep. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So 16B, you may begin in 3, 2, 1, start.
Tiger is culturally considered the most powerful animal of the jungle, a representative of masculinity and an epitome of ferocity. Its dominance remains undisputed even in the presence of most notorious and uncanny animals. To keep its dominance intact, it does not expel the rest of the animals from jungle. Instead, it hides its strength, bites time, and then predates on them. Good afternoon, honorable judges and my dear friends. Today, I quote 16B is going to speak against the motion. Francis Fukuyama, in his work End of History, wrote, and I quote, "Not Islamic terrorism, but the rise of China will be the greatest threat to world stability," which, in the light of recent events, seems inevitable given the situation of turmoil this pandemic has created in most of the countries around the world. The US unwillingness to come out of isolationism and China's adventurism in flexing its arms. It has most certainly led to establishment of a new world order of disorder. But fortunately, this situation has brought an opportunity in itself for India. India needs to stand up and become a major key player in maintaining liberal order around the world. And in order to do so, it does not need to completely boycott China, because that way it is only going to hurt itself more and China less. India needs to become democratic alternative of China to the world and not democratic China of the world. There are three important aspects which needs to be taken into consideration when we talk of complete boycott of China: economy, nationalism, and diplomacy. India's claim to complete boycott of China is the weakest in terms of economy and seems like a pretty distant future at the moment. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, 15.3% of India's imports are from China and only 5.1% of India's exports go to China. That means most of the devices that we are using today, ranging from electronic devices to automobiles and even the pills that are made in India, most active ingredients are imported from China. And what's more echoing is the fact that mission like Startup India and Make in India have been a failure on their face because they have been incompetent in track checking China's investment in Indian startups and serving as indigenous startup investors. You name any big Indian startup and you'll find China's hand in it, like Ola, Paytm, Zomato, Swiggy, Tacto, Byju's, Flipkart, etc. Surprisingly, China's investment in Indian market has reached a shocking valuation of $8 billion. But it is no surprise that when Indian banks were busy giving loans to defaulters like Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi, Chinese companies were busy investing heavily in India. If India is adamant to pursue its goal of complete boycott of China, it will be like slapping but being stabbed in return, as China could also resort to holding exports to India and withdrawing investment from Indian firms, thus bleeding Indian economy with thousand cuts. That way, India's economic cry of being vocal for local is only going to cripple the locals at the end. To prevent this, India needs to diversify its imports and refrain from being heavily dependent on China. It needs to put more emphasis and pay more attention on missions like Startup India and Make in India and make compulsory changes in their operating mechanisms. Most importantly, India's vision of an Atmanirbhar Bharat can only be successful after India transforms its unskilled labor population into a skilled one. India's nationalism has a new definition now. Now, I'm not going to comment on that because I fear being arrested under the UAPA. But the only problem with this new nationalism is that it is blindfolded at times. Daniel Kahneman, in his work Thinking Fast and Slow talks about the two systems of human brain, system 1 and system 2. System 1 is used for fast thinking and relies on instincts and emotion, while system 2 is used for slow thinking and has more deliberate and logical approach. The recent move of banning Chinese app is a classic case of using system 1 for a problem better suited for system 2. Now, as a nationalist, I do welcome this move, but as a patriot, I firmly believe no number of app bans could really provide justice to the pain suffered by the family of soldiers martyred at Galwan Valley clash. The ministry reasoned apps to be hostile and threat to national security, defense, and integrity of the nation. But we better understand that internet is a part of geopolitics now. Any powerful nation can get access to data on a single click. What India needs is a robust cyber peace or war policy for national security and not just app ban to settle public outrage in the name of nationalism. Diplomatically, this pandemic has caused enough bad PR for China that it has finally resorted to use of coercive force and violation of international rules and regulations. China is not new to the club of violators of international rules and regulations. In fact, it is the leader of that club. With its wolf warrior diplomacy in effect, it seems to appear to follow Mao Zedong's principle that conflict are best solved through brutal application of force, and that peace is lost through compromise. Through its Belt and Road Initiative and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it is surely building a network of cheerleader state. It has consistently violated the Asian Code of Conduct of compromise, consensus, and consultation, and has turned it into its own code of conduct of sack, suppress, and sabotage relationship with Asian nations. It has blatantly violated the Panchsheel Treaty. Now, I firmly believe that India should not completely boycott China because that way it was only going to hurt itself more. But I firmly believe that India should definitely teach China a lesson. It is time that India should now transform its neighbors first policy into friends first. It should get rid of one China policy and should be among the first countries to recognize Hong Kong's autonomy. India's appointment of a senior diplomat to Taiwan as an ambassador is an extremely commendable step, and also a welcome steps to ridiculing Beijing's one China policy. India, with its reestablishing of Quad in 2017, can now become a major military player in the Indo-Pacific region. But China, with its salami slicing tactics, has forced India to be prudent at its border. It is a waking call for India that it now needs to deploy robust measures to fight the dragon. In the end, I would like to conclude by saying, unless India stands up to the world, no one will respect us. In this world, fear has no place. Only strength respects strength. Thank you.
Thank you, 16B. Moving ahead to